Everybody says it's a sci-fi film and it's a time travel film and all. And I'm so excited to see people are going to get surprised when they actually see what the film is all about.
I more often than not find myself in this predicament with the audience knee deep in film analysis, where one sees the marketing material of a much awaited movie featuring various stars, history having proven that the marketing material of director Lokesh Kanagaraj is such that he tends to underplay the series of events that take place in the film, in turn leading to several conspiracy theories being flung around by film bros and YouTube channels, and the tough pill to swallow that we as a community are thinking about far wilder plot points than the makers themselves. I remember when we were discussing Alia Bhatt in Brahmastra being the possible antagonist. I remember theories being flung around Pushpa and how there might be a double role of Allu Arjun. Heck, we even created theories of Rocky Bhai surviving drowning with gold in the end of KGF 2 and Munna Bhaiya being immortal in Mirzapur. We go so wild with these theories that we end up watching the film and then we tend to look around with our friends and start to wonder, are we really out of our mind, or should we just manage our expectations with commercial cinema at this point? These are all my thoughts as I sat through Coolie and just saw the flat, predictable, and basic nature with which the film's storyline got explored. A film which was being touted as a time travel, body swapping sci-fi film, by the way. With the managed expectations and whatever little had been shown in the teaser and trailer, Coolie focuses on Deva, played by Rajinikanth, who crosses paths with Preeti, played by Shruti Haasan, who is dealing with the loss of a loved one. When Deva realizes that the loss of his friend is due to the oppressive business practices of Simon, played by Nagarjuna, and his right-hand man Dayal, played by Soubin Shahir, goons who are dealing with the import and export of gold and silver products, he takes a personal responsibility in finding out the identity of his friend's murderers and the nature in which these goons function their business. How this ties into the appearances of actors like Upendra and Aamir and the journey Deva has had specifically forms the premise of Coolie. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the film so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch Coolie in theaters or not. The good. Reliance on Thalaivar's swagger. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that a lot of what makes Coolie watchable is to see Rajinikanth in such fine form at the age of 74 years old. This is a movie that is not providing you much from a screenplay perspective or even something out of the ordinary from an action block POV. It's the celebration of this star, of this man with this undeniable aura that often papers over the cracks of some of the most illogical and sometimes face-palming moments from this film. I often talk about how uncomfortable it is to sit through actors way past their prime who still are struggling to shake a leg and be that cool leading man in cinema, and the manner in which he grooves in his mansion, it just creates an atmosphere of merry and celebration in theaters. At least he is not romancing a woman half his age in the process. I digress, but this is genuinely the case of a star surrendering to a director, even leaving something for the fans with the iconic flashback sequence with a very carefully crafted de-aged scene that I believe was left a little far too late in the film for its deserved impact. The common discourse around Lokesh Kanagaraj movies or any movie featuring Tamil film stars is what is the percentage split between what was the director's vision and what was the stars. And after concluding this film, it genuinely felt like Rajinikanth simply did what was required and more for Lokesh Kanagaraj as a talent, not interjecting his star-isms that may possibly conflict with the film's storyline. What I actually felt in retrospect was that an informed Rajinikanth was almost let down with a headless chicken-like script that did not understand what eventually to focus on as the running minutes passed by, especially the second half. Anirudh and fleeting moments of brilliance. A lot of the sequences of this movie, had it not been for the score of Anirudh, would have fallen so flat on their face. It reminds me of the same problem that Rajinikanth himself recognized about an entertainer in the rough edit like Jailer, that when you see the movie without Anirudh's score, it was rather lackluster, but elevated through various moods with which he contributed to the scenes. Even though it was tough to sit through some of the editing patterns of the way the songs have been placed in the screenplay, Anirudh integrates great heart in the fleeting moments of emotion in the film. In all the noise and chaos, I was searching for some heart in this film, acknowledging how beautifully Lokesh explored the same in some of his most balls to the wall commercial movies, and I must say, It is the fleeting moment shared between Shruti, Haasan and Rajinikanth where you see a deeper emotional connection that resonates way more than the stylized noise of this film. These are the frames where Rajinikanth is internalizing conflicting feelings, overwhelmed slightly but holding back, completely breaking down, making that moment the core, the heart of what Coolie could have been. But this moment is a feature that is just few and far between in a film that is mostly inundated with one action or chase sequence after the other. Of the supporting cast, I honestly think it is Soubin Shahir as Dayal who leaves the most solid impression. Even though his character gets progressively irritating in the second half, he plays a constantly smiling and vindictive, sadistic man with ease. Soubin channelizes a very physical and effective performance, almost taking the shape of a pest that one can't get rid of. I have often said this for many characters who tend to resurface in movies, and he reminded me of the Russians in Guy Ritchie movies who just don't seem to get defeated. I absolutely wanted to love Nagarjuna in this film, but other than looking absolutely dashing in this movie, stylized probably in the coolest way possible, I think he was terribly underutilized in this film. Let's dive deep now on what made this film from a decent Lokesh Kanagaraj film to quite possibly his weakest work for me. The underwhelming aspects. Conflicting editing pattern. Lokesh Kanagaraj has the tendency to intercut various points of view in quick succession in a scene, and while this may still be effective in the manner in which, say, Guy Ritchie through quick editing patterns helps simplify long dialogues of exposition, Lokesh abruptly tends to cut away song sequences to highlight scenes which are in sharp contrast to the mood of the songs. I'll tell you an example like Monica. The energetic and fun song featuring Pooja Hegde comes at a point where the gang members in the dockyard are narrowing down on possibly a rat amongst them, an informer of sorts. This is critical information and a grave matter. However, the exploration of this is matched with the visuals of Monica, where a soon-to-be bride is celebrating with her fiancé in the dockyard as the characters surround her and dance with her. It's a weird intercut between the intense moment at hand with Soubin being furious and angry and immediately followed by him dancing shirtless like he couldn't care less. It gives you whiplash on why Lokesh wants to intercut the light-hearted moment with the intense. Similarly, there is an absolute vibe of a number called I Am the Danger that is picturized around Nagarjuna, and it could literally be the embodiment of evil being represented with swag, but it also is interspersed with something extremely intense happening simultaneously, taking away from a sequence that can elevate an extremely conniving antagonist. This is something that happened with Na Reddy also, if you remember, in Leo, where you couldn't even have fun with the dance number because it was being intercut with occult practices of Sanjay Dutt on the side. I find this pattern slightly frustrating. Generic action set pieces and exhausting exposition. There is nothing particularly novel about what is being done from an action choreography perspective in this film, which you haven't seen before. If you have seen movies like Bhishma Parvam and even Lokesh's Vikram, you know the most efficient way to execute sequences with older legends of Indian cinema is to use the high precision bolt cameras that do most of the movement as the characters are mostly static. The action sequences have been captured in a clean fashion, especially one standing out for me featuring an actor like Upendra kicking. But it's a been there, done that feeling you have when the sequences lack novelty and are heavily reliant on Anirudh's score to elevate it. What's actually the biggest problem is not the technical quality of the action set pieces, but the emotion guiding it. And what's the most effective quality about the action choreography of Lokesh's movies is that there is a solid point of conflict, an emotion that drives the action, which makes you root for the bad guy getting thrashed. However, here, the point of conflict is so dispersed, the villains have so many motives that you are slightly confused on where this energy is being directed. I mean, you remember feeling the absolute palpable anger of Parthiban in the action sequence in the cafe, or even when JD's letter gets torn in the jail in Master. There is a point of anger that makes us root for him to kill the goons in front of him. However, that visceral feeling is missing here. The most frustrating part about the film also is the long dialogues of exposition where everything is being explained to the T from details of the business, the players and their portfolios, and while you may believe it is restricted to this and it is necessary, at least in the formative parts of the film, it gets especially frustrating when even near the climax, our hero Deva is explaining his whole flashback with such spitfire of details that you almost have to write down notes on what went down. With there being so many characters with so many motivations and then so much exposition, the second half of Coolie transitioned to be an overwhelming information dump. Tough to comprehend. Speaking of which, too many subplots and unfocused energy. The film, at least till the first half, had a simmering, flat but partly enjoyable flow in its screenplay. However, Lokesh feels the need to integrate so many characters with so many motivations in the second half, you as a viewer find yourself following characters in action sequences and chase scenes and often question, why exactly are they engaging in this action? Why exactly is he following her? What is the end goal that they achieve? And it begs too many questions in the process that are often left unanswered also. There is this technology that is integral in the film storyline, and it's presented as this high-tech element that can only be utilized by a select few, and it transitions to become a mere tool anyone can use. There is an attempt at a twist with the character, and it falls flat because it seems novel from a reveal standpoint, but there seems to be no idea for Lokesh on where to take that character after the reveal. Most of the characters have some teleportation device in this film, honestly, because they are instructing something at one end and magically appear in another sequence in an entirely different location with ease. This is especially true for a very funny train sequence. What's crazy is that you have characters who know someone is trouble due to a previous context in a scene, but later they act as if they don't know them, almost as if Lokesh had lost continuity in the process. The most frustrating part, and I felt for Nagarjuna on the same, is that because of this unfocused energy of the film, often through sequences, Nagarjuna is involved in doing his main business, considering Deva and his antics not worthy of his attention. With his big business for the large portion of the film, he is dealing with meetings and big consignments, so his reintroduction into Deva's life almost felt like he had to deal with a side hustle in the film, feeling like an afterthought, like Lokesh felt bad that he hasn't been used enough. And for all the marketing that was done of Nagarjuna being this menace, this villain for the ages, it all was kind of lost in execution. There is this one sequence where Rajinikanth and his buddies are being beaten up and fearful of goons, only for Rajinikanth to give a signal for them to turn on their A game with a whistle and beat up the people. And they immediately do so, making me wonder what they were waiting for. Truly making the second half of the film really frustrating to sit through because there is so much to focus on. The cameo of Upendra seems to be only for the purpose of one action scene, and with all due respect, was of a mere sidekick rather than having weight in the film storyline. The worst cameo, honestly, and I hate to say this, is that of Aamir Khan. And I mean, with all the hype and marketing surrounding it, everyone wondering that Aamir Khan is going to be this badass gangster, an extension of the aura of Rolex, and it is so far from the truth that it almost becomes embarrassing to watch in the climax. Whoever styled Aamir Khan in this gunji shorts and boots is his worst enemy. The attempt of having some kind of intimidating presence while the Huskies run in front of him, that too in a desert, is a total miss, as his integration into the storyline becomes comical rather than intense, reducing all aura points in the process and making the concluding moments of this film pointless, and the cameo specifically of Aamir Khan rather foolish. I really wanted to love and root for this film, but its progression to take the form of a headless chicken really made it a frustrating watch to sit through, especially in the second half. And hands down, since his debut, at least his feature film debut, Managaram, Coolie really is the weakest in Lokesh Kanagaraj's filmography. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Coolie. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.